All right, guys, what's happening? Shawn Ames here from Heart of America FPV, and it's story time. This is a story that I've been waiting to tell you guys for, I think, 2.5 years now, of one of the coolest FPV videos that I think was ever made. I just didn't really know if I could share or should share the footage or not, but I'm getting ready to share it. So strap in and get ready to watch this. So before we get started, if you've got needs like this, if you're looking for what I would call a surveillance tactical drone pilot that could do this kind of flying, the cool thing is that they are everywhere. All around the country, there are people that can do this kind of tactical drone flying near you, and I know them. So feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my contact information in the description of this video. Reach out and I can connect you with a drone pilot that can do this kind of flying on short notice in your area, because I know these situations can be very, very time sensitive, and let's get you connected with someone that can help out and maybe save somebody's life. So man, I've really got to think about this, the timeline when this was. I want to say it was mid-April in 2022. I had done a video a long time ago, a few years before that, about how I thought whoops could be used in tactical situations to help save people's lives. I had demoed this idea for a handful of different people, did something for this law enforcement get together one time, showing the capabilities of literally like tiny, cheap drones that people could use. And then I'd gotten a call from a local friend of mine that worked at our local police department asking if I could come demo for them sometime about what the capabilities were and that kind of thing. And we were supposed to set up a time and we never really got around to it. But I think it was just a couple weeks later, I got a call from the same guy and he's like, hey, remember that demo thing I was asking you about? We could use your help now. And to be clear, I don't work in law enforcement. At the time, I was a full-time real estate agent, real estate broker. Now I still manage a real estate office and work for Multi-GP that does drone racing, the biggest drone racing organization in the world. It's a passion of mine. So regardless, I got this call. They said they have a situation. He gave me an address, told me to come out as soon as I could. And it'd been a while since I'd done one of those demos. So I kind of rushed around, found a drone. I made sure I had a couple little batteries that were ready. The drone was like kind of broken. You'll see it was locked on angle mode, so it couldn't like turtle mode or anything. Grabbed the batteries, grabbed the drone, rushed out of the house and drove out here to a county road just outside of the town that I live in. They had fire trucks like blocking off the road, so you couldn't get down there. Waved me past. I was able to get up there. And when I pull up, I kind of park maybe about 200 yards away from the house and kind of wait there. I called my friend. He came and talked to me. He said, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to deploy gas, so you have some time. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'd kind of gotten out of my car, opened up the back hatch, and I was kind of getting my batteries and my goggles and everything ready. Essentially, there was a house and there was like some tactical vehicles like in the front yard, law enforcement everywhere. There was probably 50, maybe more different law enforcement. There was an ambulance there. There was just all kinds of chaos going on at this house. I heard them, they deployed gas canisters. It was kind of a big cloud of gas. And all of a sudden I saw like law enforcement, a bubble of them start to kind of get away from the house because they'd got gassed a little bit. So that cleared. And then they did another round of the tear gas, I guess. I noticed that the bubble of people that were escaping the tear gas was getting closer and closer to me because I was downwind. And I was like, I should probably get back in my car. And about that time, something smelled a little funny and I got tear gassed a little bit. So I can't imagine, like I said, being 200 yards away or whatever, what that was like up close. I ended up having to kind of wash my face with water. And yeah, this was the first time I got gassed. Not your normal drone job, I'll just say that. The gas dissipated or whatever. And they came and got me and said, hey, so we think this guy's in the attic. We don't want to stick our head up in the attic. They kind of talked about that in the news story I'll share at the end of this. Can you fly up there and look around and see if the guy's up there? And I'm like, maybe. We'll see. I'm a pretty good drone pilot, but an attic can be a hard place to fly. So I get all my stuff and they literally like walk me up to this house with a riot shield. They escort me. They have this vehicle in the front yard, but they're like, hey, if anything goes bad, just stay in here. We'll shut the doors. It's bulletproof. I'm like, okay. I'm wondering if I'm going to fail safe, right? Like how thick is this bulletproof thing? Like, am I even going to have a signal outside of this? So I get the drone, I put it on top of the vehicle, set down inside. I give one of the officers a set of like ride along goggles and off we go. So we fly up into the attic, and right as we fly into the attic, it took me a second to realize what was happening, but we heard gunshots. And if I remember, it was like 3 or 4 gunshots. Pow, pop, 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 pop. And they're yelling, drop it, drop it. So I like disarm the drone, like no care, just disarm the drone. They're like surveying everyone. Has anyone been shot? You know, like we don't know, you know, what's going on. Where was the gunfire? I'm assuming the guy has to be in the attic, right? Because like he fired all these shots, like he must have saw the drone and shot at the drone. I'm assuming, right? I don't really know at that point, but the drone, lucky enough, landed right side up in the attic. And after a few moments, they realized no one had been shot. Everyone was safe. Take off with the drone and see if you can find the guy. So I take off and I'm like pretty nervous because I know if I go down in that attic, especially again, like there's a chance I'm not going to be able to get the drone back up and we're done with the whole shebang. So I'm flying around this attic looking as good as I can. And there's a lot of junk up there. It's dusty. We're just kind of cruising around. And I don't find the guy, like unless he's really buried in some insulation. I'm not finding him. So I'm cruising around the attic looking, and he's not up there. So my battery's starting to get low. I decide to bring it back down, come back and land and swap out the battery. And I talked to the guys that are there. I think it was actually the US Marshals. And I've told people this too. I've watched a lot of like cop shows and stuff, and like the US Marshals are like bad to the bone, right? And what I realized doing this job is that the US Marshals are actually way badder to the bone than they are on TV. These guys were tough, definitely bad to the bone. So anyway, we're talking to them and they're like me. They think the guy maybe he's just in the attic and we didn't find him. Certainly he's in the attic because why did he shoot at the drone? He didn't shoot anymore. But certainly he's in the attic. And they're like, could you go back up in the attic? I'm like, yes, but I only have this one drone that's set up for this right now. And if I crash in the attic, I'm done. Like I can't search the rest of the house. The rest of the house is certainly going to be easier to fly through. So how about I search the rest of the house? If I don't end up finding him, then I'll go back up in the attic. So like, okay, that'll be fine. So I take off again with a fresh battery, go in the front door. It's wide open. And you'll kind of see the video here, but I go like living room, kitchen, down the hallway into the bathroom. I get stuck for a bit, come back out, I think in the living room or their bedrooms. I'm like really searching this house pretty well. There's a lot of crap in the house. So certainly he could be like kind of hiding here, there, or wherever. But finally, the last room I check in the house is this family room area that's next to the garage. And I come in and boy, oh boy, I'm not the greatest hide and go seek player, but this guy was pretty bad.
I got movement right here. He's in this family room. I'm looking right at him. He's got a gun in his hand. He's coming at me.
I spotted him pretty clearly. There he was. And you could tell he was as puzzled as I was, in this moment, because we're trying to figure out, but he kind of sets up and looks at it and he swats at the drone. So I'm able to call him out. Hey, I found him. He's in the family room next to the garage. He's got a gun. We're able to call it out. And so I kind of come back into the living room and I'm hovering there, just figuring out, okay, should I go look again? Has he moved? What's going on? After a few seconds, I'm like, okay, let's go see what he's up to. And I go around in the corner. And when I've showed people this video, I always ask them, have you ever been pistol whipped? And right about there, I remind them that now they have. Now we've all been pistol whipped, which was one of my favorite clips to watch in slow motion is this guy swatting the drone down. And obviously the craziest thing, I'll put up some pictures. I don't think I have the exact drone. I ended up building a few more that I could use in these kind of scenarios. I haven't had the opportunity since. I'm set up. So if anyone needs anything locally, give me a call. I'm really good at flying these things. It was crazy because in the moment, it's like, oh, the guy took out the drone, Looking back on it, I've had some conversations with folks involved in our local police department. They really framed it a different way for me. And it helped me realize that drone flight just seemed kind of silly, like the guy trying to swat at the drone and whatever. For them, that was a lot of really good information they were able to learn from that flight. So when I got there, I'm not really sure exactly what they knew or didn't know. I got the impression that maybe they weren't exactly sure if he was still in the house or maybe he was deceased. Was he armed? They didn't know that. Thought for some reason he might have been in the attic, which is why we flew up there first. But after the drone flight, they knew a lot of really valuable things. They knew he was there. They knew he was alive. At least from my perspective, it seemed like he was alone. They knew that he was armed. They knew what kind of weapon he had. The other thing that my friend in law enforcement told me is that their assumption is when he heard the drone go up into the attic, because he wasn't actually in the attic, when he heard the drone go up into the attic, they assume he thought it was an entry team and he was just firing blind. What really stuck out at me is that little silly drone flight kept law enforcement from being shot at. You had a bad guy who's done bad things, barricaded isolated in a house waiting for his opportunity to shoot at law enforcement. And so that silly little plastic drone, right? It's like a $200 to $300 toy, right? It's like a really, really small drone, completely disposable in these kinds of situations, in my opinion. That silly little drone flight kept law enforcement from being shot at. The other thing that it did is it honestly probably saved his life, because if that was an entry team coming in, you know, with like their full SWAT get up and he starts firing at them, he's no longer alive. That put a lot of things into perspective for me. And I know in our drone hobby, there's a lot of mixed feelings right now about the use of drones in war. We're seeing that in Ukraine. It makes my heart sick whenever I see drones used in a lethal way. There's a lot more to the capabilities of these drones than just being a clever way to deliver explosives. These are a great way to see in places that you can't see otherwise. I've always had the perspective, there's a lot of drone companies out there trying to sell expensive drones. There's a real need, I think, for this relationship between FPV pilots and law enforcement. It's one thing, yeah, certainly someday someone will design a drone that can be just flown by anybody, and it'll cost $20,000 and it'll be in some person's trunk and hard to deploy. You know, my perspective has always been that we need service providers that can do this kind of work for law enforcement. And I could certainly do that. I know a number of people here in Missouri that can do this kind of work, but there's a lot of opportunities here. When all of this went down, I didn't have any formal agreement with anyone. I certainly didn't have like a formal agreement with the police department. I didn't have a formal agreement with the US Marshals, and whether or not I could legally share this footage was kind of up in the air. I actually submitted a Freedom of Information Act request years ago, trying to get them to release the footage to me. Apparently Fox 2 or whatever did a better job. I'm not sure where they got the footage. Someone who knows about the legalities of this, if I'm owed any kind of licensing fee, let me know, because this is my footage. You don't own it. But yeah, I'm excited to see it in the world. I'm excited to share the story with you guys. I'm excited for you to see the video of a drone being pistol whipped. I hope you enjoyed this story and video. Like I said, if you're looking for a drone pilot to do something like this, or if you want to connect with a drone pilot in your area, I can connect you with a provider without a doubt. I would say in the United States, at any point in time, I've got a drone pilot that can do this kind of work within 3 hours of you. So yeah, give me a shout. Hope you enjoy this. Share it. I haven't been posting on YouTube a lot lately because I'm working with multi-GV. I'm super busy, but I'd love for this to get a ton of plays. And I hope that people have a good time watching it. So thanks for checking this out. We'll see you on the racetrack. We'll catch you next time on Heart of America FPV. Later.